Next speaker, a speed talk from our friends from Sophos. So just to introduce our next speaker, she has been in a cybersecurity space for 10 years with industry knowledge and skills on endpoint and network security. Most of her career involved technical sales, pre-sales, and as a trusted advisor for enterprise customers. So let's give it a round of applause to our next speaker, Lynette Manahaya.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Right. So I'm from Sophos, and I hope you have visited the booth, no, since yesterday. Yeah. So this afternoon I'll be sharing with you, solutions and services from Sophos. I've entitled my presentation "Preempt, Protect, and Prevail." This is comprised of the active adversary report that we release yearly. So this is, tackling about the incident response cases, real world victims, real world scenarios of, organizations that have experienced cyber attack. So let me start off with the demographics, right? So how many cases did we investigate and we've responded on last 2024 up to the first half of this year? It's about 413 IR cases in 57 countries. So this is where the victim resides. And also 32 industries, different industries, different verticals. And we have concluded or summarized all the techniques, all the incidents, and all the similarities of, the approaches of these cyber threat actors, um, respective of the industry and as well as the size of the organization. There are also 84% of data set that is coming from the sub 1,000 organization. So it's a mix of small to medium businesses as well as large enterprises. So let's start off with the key takeaways. Number one, takeaway is about compromised credential. So nowadays, threat actors no longer force their way in. They are no longer, majority of their techniques no longer use noisy tactics, but they would go the easiest path, which is using the compromised credential, buying leaked credentials in the dark web, using these logins to gain initial access. So these compromised credentials were used in 41% of cases that we have analyzed. And always yearly, no, we've noted compromised credentials and exploitation of vulnerabilities as top attack vectors that is, their favorite to use. So we have noted exploited vulnerabilities at 21% or 21.79%, and the brute force attack at 21.07%, which is at the second and third places of threat attack vectors. Now, we have seen the switch of this vector starting from 2023 going 2024. In 2023, we've seen the use of compromised credential is only at 30%. Uh, and in 2024, it has increased to 57%. Exploitation of vulnerabilities is at 37%, and they have switched places within 2023 to 24, which is now at 25%. So we've seen that they are kind of gaining, and also increasing in the use of login credentials, in the use of compromised credential to access networks or to access the infrastructure of the victims. This reference is also coming from Verizon Data Breach, which they noted that the two of the attack vectors that we are monitoring is also part of the reason of data breaches in 2024, which is, again, the top one is credential use and phishing and exploitation of vulnerabilities. Now, the second takeaway of this report is about the dwell time. So the time that the attacker spend in the network is dropping year by year. So this year, it has dropped again. The median dwell time that we have gathered was about only 2 days. So in 2 days, once they gain the initial access, they'll be able to get something out of the network, some data to be encrypted, or data to be exfiltrated and sold outside. So that dwell time, the reason behind is the signals that were already present before the actual execution of either ransomware or data breach that is already in the network but were not actually processed, it was not monitored, it was not seen by defenders. So these are the signals that matter that are over time being neglected, and sadly, they were not monitored. First is about failed login attempts. Second, successful login, but from different time zones. These are signs of anomalous behavior, especially when you are monitoring a certain subset of employees or subset of people in the companies that only operate in a certain time zone in a certain country. Impossible travel events, wherein we've seen signs where some of their users were logging in using different time zones in different countries, but they are not picked up as an anomalous signal. Then fourth is the token reuse or the MFA fatigue. So there are signs as well which caused to later to a ransomware and data breach that started on reusing MFA tokens, which are not picked up by cyber defenders. And then last is the access to unusual resources, which is not detected by their controls or their policies. So why did the victims miss these signals? Three reasons, and top reasons that we always get from victims or from these organizations are: number one, because they lack the telemetry tools, they lack a dashboard that says prioritize these kinds of events. They lack the skill set to also understand what's happening in their environment. The second reason is over-reliance on antivirus, on endpoint protection, over-reliance on technologies, and not focusing on enhancing operations and threat detection and response, for example. And then the third reason is mainly because of alert fatigue. So on average, Gartner already released that report that on average, on an average size organization, an IT team has to monitor and has to administer about 60 plus tools and in different consoles. So that only gave them a lot of alerts, a lot of reports, and over time, they experience alert fatigue, which is why they miss these kinds of signals. The third key takeaway out of this report is about the exfiltration. So data exfiltration in ransomware attacks specifically, they started just 3 days after the initial access or the initial infection. Now, when it comes to data exfiltration, normally we would see this at the end of the cyber kill chain. But now there is a dwell time that within 3 days from initial access up to the data detected to be exfiltrated, it's getting faster and faster. So one of the ways that they're doing data exfiltration is already part of their attack kill chain within a certain or a single chain. So it's not the end goal normally. Sometimes they also do double extortion. They also do ransomware at the end of that kill chain. Now, the reason behind ransomware is still the dominant threat, but it is evolving. We've seen tactics or procedures that are changing. They also adapt on different strategies when it comes to deploying ransomware. The first data that we've noted is we've considered smaller businesses or SMBs, small to medium, that also experience the same sophistication of attacks, and they also experience the same volume of ransomware attacks. At 70% of IR cases, this involved ransomware in these SMB or small medium businesses. So meaning they are not selective about the kind of business and the size of business that they are attacking. They are, getting whatever it is in those businesses as long as they get money from them. Second is the ransomware binaries are also installed or deployed outside the office work hours of that victim. So respective of the time zone and the country where they are, the ransomware binaries, almost always they would deploy it beyond the office hours. So businesses that are only operating and monitoring their environment 8 by 5 and not doing a 24 by 7 analysis and threat monitoring, they are falling victims to these kinds of attacks. And then 30% of ransomware cases, as I've mentioned, also involve data theft and double extortion. So from that data that they will get from their victim, if the victim decided to pay for the ransom for that data to be recovered, they will not be informed whether that data will be erased totally from the attacker's side, or they will still use it for selling, for auctioning that up in the dark web. So these are the cases of double extortion. Now, the evolution of ransomware over the years, we've seen that somehow the volume is decreasing, but the sophistication and the difficulty of stopping them are still there, and they are becoming aggressive. Attackers also increasingly encrypt files on an unmanaged system. So almost always the victim, when we investigate a ransomware attack, we would find some unprotected devices where the ransomware started. We would find some not totally unprotected, but underprotected. Some policies are turned off. Some layers of security are not being used. So this leads to a more successful ransomware deployment on the side of the cyber criminal. And then lastly, some of the attackers even skip encryption of data. They will proceed to blackmailing, straight to blackmailing or straight to extortion of that victim. The fourth key takeaway is about still about ransomware. So overall, regardless of the size, the IR cases that we've investigated, there are 65% of those cases that involve ransomware. This is their favorite threat now, because basically it involves money. But we have seen a different strategy now, which we call the silent takeover. This one is when they use an unmanaged device to execute a ransomware attack to a protected device. So meaning, a silent takeover happens when the attacker moves that data from the protected machine to prevent or to avoid detection, to avoid the endpoint protection, to avoid anti-ransomware protection from detecting them. They would copy that data to an unprotected endpoint, and that's where they would encrypt it and overwrite that data back to that victim's machine. So this technique is sophisticated. It is low noise intrusion, and not everyone who provides endpoint protection can detect a remotely executed ransomware. So only few can protect that. Now, we've seen this kind of strategy being done even from 2022, which has increased to 141, more than 141% of ransomware attacks. It involves execution from a remote machine. And more than 50% between 2023 and 2024 was noted based on our statistics and data set. Now, lastly, the key takeaway from this adversary report is that the attackers have less of a need for custom malware to gain initial access. So custom malware, creating unique malwares every time you want to attack an organization would really take a long time and a lot of effort from cyber criminals. Now what they're doing is looking for the fastest route, either using compromised credential or looking for edge devices that are vulnerable so that they can access it or they can exploit it. We've seen edge devices to be the weakest link. Out of these cases, there are 25% of breaches that start at the network edge. So the network devices that are supposed to be protecting them on the perimeter from these kinds of attacks are oftentimes seen as vulnerable. They have unpatched vulnerabilities. They have services that are open that should not be open, that should not be exposed to the public. There are RDPs exposed. There are, remote access tools that are exposed out to the internet. So these are the risk factors in these edge devices. There are also cases where even the VPN device or the VPN client is vulnerable. Credentials are being stolen. The client is being exploited. So even though it has been our advice to patch vulnerabilities often, to always conduct audits, always check on your tools, it's still happening nowadays. So now, what is Sophos' position in this kinds of, or in this age of cyber threat landscape? We have seen the priorities of companies being on detecting things, on protecting things, right? But what we say we need to give a lot of efforts now is on preemptive approach, on proactive approach, which is the prevention part of our cybersecurity strategies. Now, this is a Sophos platform now in a nutshell. You will see that from mitigation of risk up to the point of stopping active attacks, which is, the latter part, which is the stage you don't want to happen. We have a lot of things that we can do from here going there. So what we are suggesting and also recommending organization is to focus on mitigation of risks, identifying risks, ensuring that your team are ready when it comes to incident, ensuring that you have actually a team that can conduct IR, that can respond to incidents, that can pick up signals from the early stages of an attack before it even impacts your environment. So with this strategy, we have opened the platform to integrations. Even third-party integrations are available. In the threat detection platform, what we want and our goal is to have visibility in different attack vectors, to have data, to have telemetry so that we will not be blindsided but by what is happening on different sides of your environment. Now, last year and up to early this year, we have announced the acquisition of SecureWorks. SecureWorks is a good company that provides threat detection and response, managed detection and response, and expanded portfolio of third-party integrations. It is now a Sophos company. And it has given us this capability of expanding our portfolio into having almost everything that we can integrate at the base layer of your threat detection capabilities. So even operational technologies, devices, on-premise devices, even third-party threat intel, application, containers from on-premise to cloud, we can integrate that to what we call the Taegis platform. So this Taegis platform, we have it in layers from the base of integrating everything. And also on the next layer is applying correlation, normalization of this data, identifying threats, prioritizing threats, preventing them from evolving into an active breach, and also the capabilities of AI to create workflows, to automate things, orchestration, etc. So this is now our roadmap from Sophos with Taegis. We would be expanding the portfolio into collecting everything and then providing that great visibility and ability to take actions on these kinds of threats. At the top of this layered platform, you could then apply different services such as 24/7 managed SOCs. We have incident management services as well. We also have advisory services or consulting services to prepare your team for such kinds of cyber threats. So in summary, we have this from proactive consulting services up to the emergency incident response available now for you. So if in case, since the reason we call it a retainer, this is a very safe investment for organization, especially if they need help no, in assisting their own SOC or internal SOCs up to the point of responding to incidents. If they need that help, we have a service that is available and flexible for them. So our goal is to help them if there is an active attack, but if they did not experience an attack within a year, that service can be repurposed into tabletop exercises, red teaming exercises, so it's not going to be wasted. We can also perform VAPT for them. We can also do like threat hunting assessment or IR building or plan building. So that can be repurposed to a service where they could ensure that their team would be ready for such kinds of incidents. Okay, so I think that's my time. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the rest of the RootCon event.
Okay, thank you so much for that.